Julie Kraut.
All right, so Crystal was this American girl I was randomly assigned to live with during a volunteer stint in Africa. And from the get, Crystal seemed to think that we had a lot in common. But here's something that we actually didn't have in common, thinking we had a lot in common. For example, here's why Crystal said she was in Africa. I just had to get the fuck away from my family because my dad was always calling the cops on me, and I'd be like, Dad, stop freaking the fuck out. There's barely any blood here. And, I'm from the type of family where when your dad calls the cops on you for aggravated assault, you respect his decision regardless of how much blood there is. So even though Crystal wasn't an ideal travel companion, we did a lot together. We shared this apartment, we ate every meal together. Sometimes we killed time by looking at these photo albums that she brought with her of her brother's tattoos and piercings. Not exactly a best friendship, but she spoke English fluently, and that's really all I needed for a buddy when I was in Africa. And so when she suggested taking a few days to go climb up this nearby mountain, I decided it was a good idea. And so before the trip, we went to this big, fancy Western-style grocery store to buy all of our supplies. And all Crystal bought was a carton of menthol cigarettes. So I kind of bought out the whole store, knowing that Crystal would have to borrow all my food. And so in addition to the bread and the peanut butter and the chocolate bars that I bought us, I also bought a small special treat for myself, this very tiny package of cheese. And it was technically labeled cheese-style product, but I didn't really care because I'd been living a cheeseless existence in Africa at that point, and it had been months. And it was beginning to wear on me because cheese has always been a really important part of my life. You know how some people feel about God? That's how I feel about cheese, kind of. I'm always thinking about it, doing my best to honor it. When I look back on my life and see two trails of footprints in the sand that combine into one during the tough times, I'm gonna know it's because cheese carried me. I'm not gonna waver. So the idea of me sitting on top of this mountain with a beautiful view, binge-eating cheese-style product, it was gonna be a religious experience for me. So we arrive at the base of this mountain and meet our tour guide, who is clearly not impressed with Crystal's provisions. And she's like, well, don't worry. Julie bought a ton of stuff, I saw her buy cheese and bread and whatever, and she'll totally share with me because we share everything. Not guys, though. At least not yet. And I was there, about to boil over with how angry I was. Not that she just propositioned this strange man on my behalf, but because she thought that she was gonna eat some of my cheese-style product. That was all mine. So we start hiking up the mountain, and around dinner time we break. And Crystal informs me that not only does she need to borrow my food, but she also needs to borrow my bug spray because she didn't bring any. So I don't know how this happens because I wasn't with Crystal when she went through my backpack, but the next thing I know, Crystal is walking towards me and she's like, Julie, don't be mad, but I kind of spilled all your bug spray all over the food, but it just got on the cheese and the bread and stuff. You forgive me, right? And I nodded and said I forgave her because that was the right thing to do. But then after dinner, I cried myself to sleep because I was so sad over the missing cheese. What I really should have been more concerned about was that I had no more bug spray, because walking around Africa with no bug spray is kind of cruising for a bruising, which I got about a week later when I woke up with malaria. And when I tell this story to people here, they're always like, how did you know you had malaria? You know, okay? You know. You're not like, something's wrong health-wise, maybe it's irritable bowel. You feel like you've been hit by, not a truck, because then at least you'd be dead, but more by a Toyota Yaris. So I managed to hobble my way over to this local clinic, get the pills I needed, and come back to the apartment. And I put myself to bed, and as soon as I'd fallen asleep, my door opens and Crystal bounces in, and she's like, "Guess what?" And I some meekly managed to prop myself up on my bed so I can make eye contact with her, and I'm like, what, Crystal? And she's like, we really do share everything because I think that I might have malaria too. And I don't know why, but that was the moment that I lost it. Like sharing the apartment with her, that was fine. Sharing all my meals with her, sharing that stupid hike with her that went terrible, that was fine. But this I wasn't gonna do, and the next thing I know, I'm just hearing myself with all the only strength that I had in me, yelling, oh no, Crystal, malaria is mine. Malaria is all mine. You're not getting any of this malaria. And as soon as I got better from malaria, I packed my stuff, stopped by that same grocery store, bought a package of cheese style product, and started traveling on my own.